The scream was so piercing I thought someone had been stabbed. My coffee mug slipped from my hand as I bolted outside, nearly tumbling over my garden hose, only to discover HOA President Linda standing ankle-deep in my pool. She was thrashing about, surrounded by dozens of giant inflatable goat heads bobbing around her like sinister bath toys. Her voice cracked as she shrieked, "He's a cultist!" And in that instant, I knew I'd come out on top. It hadn't always been like this. Just 3 weeks earlier, I'd moved into what I thought would be a tranquil suburban paradise, spacious yard, friendly neighbors, and a freshly chlorinated pool perfect for relaxing after ditching my mind-numbing corporate sales job. But I hadn't even unpacked my last box when the first warning letter appeared on my doorstep. My offense. A single lawn flamingo. Apparently, it disrupted the neighborhood's visual harmony. That's when I met Linda. Linda wasn't just the HOA president. She was the self-proclaimed protector of all things bland, tedious, and aggressively mundane. She had a knack for popping out from behind bushes like a sanctimonious prairie dog, clipboard in hand, cataloging every tiny violation as if she were preparing for a trial at The Hague. She'd find my wind chimes for being auditorily disruptive and lodged a noise complaint because my dog sneezed too loudly during a Zoom call. But nothing could have braced me for the pool fiasco. It was a sweltering Wednesday when I came home early, eager to sink into my private oasis. As I rounded the corner to the backyard, I heard splashing and cackling, not the gentle kind, but the grating ladies' brunch-turned-pool party kind. There they were, Linda and 2 of her equally tanned cronies, lounging on my inflatables, sipping cucumber-infused drinks from mason jars. For a moment, I thought I was losing it. "Linda," I said, trying to make sense of it, "what are you doing?" "Oh, James," she replied, waving like she was royalty presiding over a chlorinated kingdom. "Your pool is so accessible and perfectly positioned. It seemed a shame not to use it. Besides, it's visible from the street, technically part of the neighborhood aesthetic." My eye twitched. "You're trespassing," I said, struggling to keep my cool. Linda flashed a condescending smile, the kind a preschool teacher gives a kid who just figured out the alphabet. "As HOA president, I'm ensuring community resources are shared equitably. You should be flattered." That's when I realized I wasn't just dealing with a rule stickler. I was up against a suburban dictator. I told her to leave. She said she'd think about it after her son's cycle was done. I threatened to call the police. She countered she'd file a harassment claim and cite me for an unapproved fence I didn't even own. That night, I stood in my kitchen, fuming. The way she wielded the HOA handbook like it was sacred scripture wasn't just maddening. It was a declaration of war. That's when I called my cousin Ethan. Ethan's the type who once got banned from Etsy for peddling haunted action figures. He perked up when I said I needed something dramatic, creepy, and Halloween-themed. "You remember those goat heads?" he asked. "The inflatable ones with glowing eyes and the motion-activated sound system that chants in Latin?" "Perfect," I said. 2 days later, we met in my garage at midnight. Ethan rolled up in night vision goggles, pushing a wheelbarrow full of grotesque, oversized goat heads that reeked of plastic and faint remorse. We spent hours rigging them in the pool, some on slow-moving floats, others half-submerged like they were about to deliver an oracle. Hidden speakers were set to chant ominously when triggered. Ethan even programmed one to bleat, "Linda," like a spectral goat from the afterlife. By dawn, the pool looked like a pagan ritual site. Then we waited. Sure enough, at 7:03 a.m. on Saturday, Linda returned, dressed in a sun hat the size of a hubcap, sipping her usual cucumber concoction. She punched in a gate code I didn't even know she had, her 2 lackeys trailing her like soldiers. Then she saw them. The goat heads floated silently at first, eerie in their stillness. Linda froze, puzzled. She stepped closer. One bobbed up, red eyes glowing, and let out a low, mechanical bleat. She screamed. The others joined in. Then the chanting started. "Bleed for the Goat King." Linda's shriek was so loud I dropped my toast. One crony slipped backward onto the lawn gnome she'd once fined me for displaying. The other fell into the pool, pulling Linda down with her. As they hit the water, the sensors went haywire. "Bleat. Bleat. Linda has arrived. Offer your HOA dues." By the time I reached the porch, 3 neighbors were peering over the fence. One, the guy with the Prius and a kombucha obsession, started recording. Linda, drenched and screaming, tried to climb out as a spinning goat head chanted, "Satan approves your application." That afternoon, the video hit the local Facebook group. Within hours, it had 600 shares. The comments were brutal. "This pool party's got goat vibes. Looks like Linda summoned the wrong entity. HOA more like hail, our Antichrist Linda." She stormed to my door later, mascara streaked, wrapped in a pool towel like a drenched prophet. "You've gone too far," she screeched, jabbing a soggy finger at me. "I'll have you evicted. I'll report you to the HOA, the county, the FBI if I have to." I smiled, unruffled. "You know I have security footage of you breaking in, right?" Her eyes darted. She hadn't seen that coming. "You've got 30 seconds to leave my property," I said, stepping back, "or I'll file a trespassing report with bonus goat commentary." She stomped off, dripping fury down my walkway. That night, I sat on my porch with a beer and a peace I hadn't felt since moving in. The war wasn't over, but I'd landed the first real blow. Somewhere in the distance, a faint mechanical voice whispered, "Bleat." The next morning, I woke to someone hammering on my door like they meant to punch through it. It was my neighbor Sam, the one with the lawn so pristine it looked digitally enhanced, holding his phone like it was a live grenade. "Dude," he said, wide-eyed, "you've blown up the HOA group chat. Linda's unraveling. People think you're running a satanic preschool." I sipped my coffee, shrugged, and said, "Good." He wasn't sure whether to laugh or worry, probably both. Apparently, the viral video had hit harder than I'd thought. Linda had spent all night trying to scrub it from the internet, calling it digital defamation and performance libel, but the web has a vicious streak, and once the memes took off, she was done for. Someone photoshopped her face onto a goat in a tiara. Another swapped the HOA president sign outside the clubhouse with Herald of the Goat Realm. My favorite was a gif of her slipping into the pool set to operatic wails. But it didn't stop there. Linda, ever the queen of escalation, called an emergency HOA meeting mandatory for all residents. The invite read like a summons to a war crimes tribunal, disturbing anti-community behavior. I nearly choked on my oatmeal. Before the meeting, Ethan and I reviewed our footage to ensure we had everything locked down. The best part? The security cam caught Linda punching in my gate code like it was a sitcom gag. We had ironclad proof of trespassing, unauthorized pool use, and maybe even a dress code violation if the HOA cared about militarized sun hats. At the clubhouse, the air was thick with tension. The room brimmed with irritated neighbors clutching eco-friendly water bottles and creased agendas. Linda stood at the front, a martyr in a blazer, eyes blazing with zeal. She clicked a remote, and the projector flared with a screenshot of my pool, goat heads glaring. "This," she declared, "is what our neighborhood has endured. Demonic imagery, threats to decency, terrorism masked as holiday decor." Ethan nudged me and whispered, "Should have added smoke machines." I bit back a grin. Linda pressed on, "Mr. James Carter has blatantly violated our community's core principles. He's fostered occult activity and endangered children, pets, and seniors." Someone muttered, "You tripped over a pool noodle, Linda." She whipped around so fast I thought she'd pull a muscle. "I have photographic proof," she barked. I stood, calm and collected. "With all due respect, I have evidence too, footage, actually. Would the board like to see it?" A few nodded. Linda's face tightened, her lips twitching like she was chewing gravel, but she couldn't stop me. I played the video. It was a masterpiece. Linda breaching my yard uninvited, doing water aerobics in my pool like it was her personal retreat, claiming it was a community asset because it was street visible, and then, gold, Linda soaked and screaming, accusing me of conjuring evil as a goat head drifted by, eyes aglow. The room went silent. Someone coughed. Then laughter erupted. Linda turned crimson, then plum, then a shade Crayola couldn't name. She lunged for the projector, fumbled the cord, and toppled the HOA coffee table in her fall. "I won't be ridiculed," she wailed. "He's twisting the story." I stepped forward, voice even. "Linda, you trespassed. You invaded my property without consent, broke privacy laws, and now you're trying to turn the HOA into your personal vendetta machine." The board chair, a quiet woman named Rachel, nodded gravely. "This does seem concerning." Linda pivoted. "He's dangerous. He's holding rituals. Ethan, unable to resist, shouted, "Praise the Goat King." That didn't help. Linda rounded on him like a hawk spotting prey. "You," she snapped. "You're the accomplice. I saw you skulking with your weird props." Ethan raised his hands. "Hey, I'm just the effects crew." The room chuckled again. It was over. She'd lost the reins. Rachel cleared her throat. "Linda, pending a full review, I'm recommending a temporary suspension of your HOA privileges. No voting, no fines, no access to shared spaces, including the pool." Linda's jaw hit the floor so hard I thought it'd ricochet. "You're barring me?" she gasped. "From the amenities?" "I'm the president." "Acting president," Rachel corrected. "And effective immediately, we'll vote for new leadership." I thought Linda might spontaneously combust. She snatched her purse like it was a lifeline, stormed to the door, spun back theatrically, and yelled, "This isn't over. You'll all rue this, especially you, goat freak." Ethan leaned over. "I kinda like that. Think I'll put it on a mug." By the time we got home, I had 20 friend requests and 3 neighbors thanking me for dethroning her. Apparently, Linda had been the cul-de-sac's tyrant for years, fining newlyweds for fairy lights, measuring hedges with a ruler for code enforcement. Her reign was cracking, but I wasn't finished. The next day, Ethan and I escalated. If Linda thought the goat heads were excessive, she'd adore what came next. We turned my pool into a full-on goat extravaganza. Floating balloons shaped like cloven hooves, pentagram snack trays of gluten-free crackers, naturally, and a sound system blasting Greatest Bleats, Volume 2. We even made pool towels emblazoned with horns up, HOA down. When I sent out party invites, the whole block RSVP'd yes, even Rachel. Linda, meanwhile, went dark. Her blinds stayed shut, her mailbox overflowed, and a "for sale" sign sprouted in her yard. Ethan grinned as we placed the final float, a goat in Linda's iconic sun hat. "Think she'll crash?" he asked. I smirked. "Let's see." The goat gala pool party dawned with flawless, sunny skies, the kind that pairs perfectly with revenge and ice cream sandwiches. My backyard was a glorious mashup of Halloween overstock and barnyard occult. Goat heads, biodegradable pentagram streamers, and a playlist mixing bleats with synth beats and monk chants. It was absurd, extravagant, and deliberate. Guests arrived early, families, couples, even teens I'd never met, all buzzing with curiosity. Some wore goat costumes. One guy taped devil horns to his swim cap. Kids giggled, music thumped, and neighbors mingled like it was the block party Linda always vetoed for being disruptive. Today, fun ruled, and it brought floaties. Ethan, in a high priest of the pool robe, roamed with sparkling water and goat-shaped cookies. People ate it up. Even Rachel, now interim HOA president, showed up in a Backyard Liberty shirt. She clinked her cup with mine. I've never seen this many smiles here since the power came back after last summer's outage. For a fleeting, perfect moment, Linda seemed gone for good. Then she appeared. Her car screeched to a halt in my driveway. Not parked, just stopped, drama incarnate. She stepped out in a funeral black dress, oversized shades, and perfume that could fell a buffalo. In her hand, a thick folder labeled Evidence in red marker. The music dipped, chatter ceased. Even the goat heads seemed to hush. Linda stormed through the side gate, heels clicking with vengeful precision. She stopped by the pool, surveyed the crowd, and thrust the folder skyward like a hexed relic. "This is an outrage," she proclaimed. "A violation of community standards. I warned you, but you've fallen to mockery and malevolence." Someone muttered, "I came for the dip, actually." Linda whirled. "I've documented over 20 infractions. Noise violations, improper imagery, excessive festivity, ritualistic vibes. This man," she jabbed a finger at me, "is unfit to live here." Ethan whispered, $10, she bans goat yoga next." I stepped forward, steady. "Linda, you've got no authority anymore. You're suspended, remember?" She flipped through her folder like a prosecutor on a bender. "This neighborhood has a moral backbone, a standard. If the board won't uphold it, I will. I've contacted county zoning, the sheriff, and a spiritual consultant." Rachel blinked. "A spiritual consultant?" Linda sniffed. "He's highly rated online." The tension was palpable. Then a kid tripped a sensor, and a float boomed. Linda has arrived. Offer thy HOA dues. Laughter exploded. Even Rachel cracked a smile. Linda's face contorted, poised to shriek, when she switched tactics. Want the truth? She bellowed. This man's not just a rebel. He's corrupt. I found a receipt in the HOA logs from 6 months ago, reimbursement for a community fountain cleaning. Guess who cashed it? James. He's been skimming funds, just like he accused me of doing. I raised an eyebrow. Linda, I moved in 3 weeks ago. The crowd buzzed. Linda's hands shook as she rechecked her papers, mouth flapping uselessly. Ethan piped up. Wait, you're accusing him of embezzling for a fountain cleaning before he lived here? Linda froze. The silence was suffocating. Rachel snatched the folder, flipped through it. These aren't receipts, she said. They're Pinterest screenshots about raccoons. Linda lunged for it, but Rachel held firm. You've lost it, Linda. You need to leave. Linda scanned the crowd, seeing no allies, not the lawn purists, not the rule hounds, not even her sun hat posse. One, Ellen, quietly ditched her "Vote Linda" pin in the trash. Linda hissed, actually hissed, then stormed out, toppling a cupcake tray as she went. The music kicked back on. A slow clap turned to cheers, and someone cannonballed into the pool, nearly wiping out Ethan's cookie tray. I laughed harder than I had in years. That evening, as the party wound down, I sat by the pool, watching the sunset glint off the water, goat heads drifting lazily. Rachel approached with a clipboard, not Linda's style, but relaxed, warm. You know, she said, we're holding elections next week. We'll need a new board president. I smirked. Oh no, I'm not touching that chaos. You'd be great, she said. People like you. People like goat floats, I quipped. She laughed. Either way, thanks. You reminded this street how to enjoy itself. Ethan splashed in behind us, soaking everything. And chaos, I added. The next morning, a moving truck rolled up to Linda's house. No fanfare, no parting shot, just a quiet exit as she boxed up her life and left. The last anyone saw was a goat float mysteriously wedged in her mailbox. I never copped to it, but I grinned every time I passed by.